The conference room was silent except for the hum of the projector. I'd just finished presenting the inventory system upgrade I'd spent 6 months building a system that had cut processing errors by 43% and saved the company $2.3 million annually. My father, Hank Whitfield, CEO and founder, sat at the head of the table with the board members. He hadn't looked at me once during the presentation. "Well," he finally said, leaning back in his leather chair, "let's not get carried away." Lauren reorganized a few shelves and made some spreadsheets. Let's not pretend she reinvented the wheel. The room laughed. Polite, comfortable laughter that made my stomach turn. I'd built an entire system from scratch. I'd trained the staff. I'd debugged problems at 2 a.m. while he was asleep, and he'd just reduced it to reorganizing shelves. I gripped the microphone, my knuckles white. Then I set it down carefully, gathered my presentation materials, and walked out. Behind me, someone asked a question. "About implementation," my father answered, as if I'd never been there at all. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling me where in the world you're watching from. I went back to my desk on the 3rd floor, not an office, a cubicle, and stared at my computer screen for 20 minutes. The promotion memo was posted on the bulletin board outside the break room. I'd walked past it that morning with a flutter of hope. Operations Manager. The position I'd been promised 6 months ago when I completed my MBA. The position my father had said was basically mine, if I proved myself. The name next to the title wasn't mine. It was Matt Kowalski, son of my father's golf buddy. Matt, who'd been with the company 8 months and whose main qualification was showing up to company events with the right last name. I walked past my father's glass office on my way out. He was on the phone, laughing about something. He never looked up. That evening, I requested a meeting. My father's assistant, a woman named Cheryl, who'd watched me grow up, gave me an apologetic look. "He has 10 minutes at 4:30 tomorrow," she said quietly. I took it. The next day, I walked into his office with a list of my accomplishments printed out. System implementations, revenue increases, efficiency improvements, all documented, all measurable. "Dad, I need to understand why I wasn't considered for the operations manager position." He barely glanced at the document. "Matt's a better fit. He has leadership presence. I've been leading projects for 2 years." Leading projects isn't the same as leading people, Lauren. You're good at details. Matt's good at the big picture. I built the system that's saving us millions. That is the big picture. He sighed, setting down his pen. "Lauren, you're upset. I understand. But the truth is, you'd sink without me. This company, this opportunity, it exists because of what I built. Maybe someday, you'll understand that gratitude matters more than ambition." I stood there, the words hitting me like physical blows. Then I reached into my pocket, pulled out my employee badge, and placed it on his desk. "I resign. Effective immediately." He laughed. Actually laughed. "You'll be back in a week." I walked out and never looked back. I spent the first week after quitting in a haze. Sleeping late, ignoring calls from my mother, eating cereal for dinner. But on day 8, I woke up angry. Not sad, not defeated, angry. I pulled out my laptop and opened a folder I'd been building for months, a backup plan I'd never thought I'd actually use. Inside were business plans, client research, financial projections. I texted 2 people, Kira, a former colleague who'd left the company 6 months before me, and Ben, a systems analyst I'd worked with on 3 major projects. "You still believe in me?" I asked them both. Kira responded first. "Always did. What are you thinking?" Ben: "What do you need?" 3 days later, we met at a coffee shop and filed the LLC paperwork for Whitfield Solutions. My name, my company. We rented a tiny shared office space in a business complex 40 minutes from my father's headquarters. Cold floors, secondhand furniture, terrible coffee. But it was ours. The first 3 months were brutal. We worked 16-hour days. I paid Kira and Ben first, taking nothing for myself. I moved out of my apartment into a studio that cost half as much. We sent out proposal after proposal. Most were rejected immediately. Some never got responses at all. One potential client, a mid-sized logistics company, told us they'd heard we were unproven and risky. When I pressed, they mentioned someone from my old company had warned them off. My father. I knew it without confirmation. I didn't confront him. I didn't retaliate. I just doubled my hours. At night, I wrote code on my laptop while eating reheated lasagna from plastic containers. I refined our pitch. I built demo systems. I reached out to every contact I had. Our first big break came from the last place I expected, a small supplier in Indiana who'd worked with my father's company and hated the experience. "Your dad's good at talking," the owner told me, "but his systems are garbage. Let's see if you're different." I flew out on a budget airline, presented for 3 hours, and landed the contract. 3 months later, our system had reduced their delivery lag by 19%. Word started spreading. 6 months after I quit, I got an email from someone I didn't expect. Thomas Brennan, former CFO of my father's company. He'd retired 2 years ago. "I heard you started your own firm," he wrote. "I'd like to buy you coffee." We met at a diner near my office. Thomas was in his 60s, sharp-eyed and direct. "I worked for your father for 12 years, he said, "and I kept detailed records of every major project. You want to know the truth? You were the brains behind 90% of his profit growth this decade." He just took credit. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were project summaries, performance metrics, and internal memos, all showing that the innovations my father claimed as his own had come from me. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked. "Because he's getting lazy, and companies that rest on past success don't last. You, though, you're building something real." He offered to consult for us part-time. I accepted immediately. Thanksgiving that year was tense. I hadn't spoken to my father since I quit, but my mother insisted I come to dinner. He sat at the head of the table, carving turkey, acting like nothing had changed. "Still playing house with your startup?" he asked, not looking at me. My hands shook. I gripped my fork tighter. "It's going well, actually. Give it a year. You'll see how hard real business is." My mother tried to change the subject. My younger brother looked uncomfortable. I said nothing, just ate quickly and left early. But when I got to my car, I found a folded note tucked into my purse. My mother's handwriting, P.S. "I always knew you were the smart one." I cried in my car for 20 minutes. Then I drove to the office and worked until 3 a.m. Year 2 brought unexpected momentum. We restructured from a consultancy into a scalable software platform. Our system could be customized for different industries: retail, manufacturing, logistics. We hired our first outside team lead, then our first sales director. Revenue doubled, then tripled. I heard through industry contacts that my father's company was struggling. Clients were leaving. A major supplier had dropped them after a billing dispute. One supplier accidentally forwarded me a quote from Whitfield Manufacturing marked, "Urgent discount needed." My father's business was shrinking while mine was growing. I didn't gloat. I just kept working. 18 months after founding Whitfield Solutions, a venture capital firm reached out with an acquisition offer. 7 figures. Complete buyout. I said no. "Why?" Kira asked, genuinely confused. "That's life-changing money." "Because I'm not here to sell," I said. "I'm here to lead." 2 weeks later, the same VC firm called back with a different offer. CEO position at a larger firm they'd recently acquired, a struggling operations software company that needed restructuring. "You'd have full authority," they told me. "Build the team you want. Implement your vision. We just need someone who knows how to turn around legacy systems." I was 29 years old. The interview was in 2 weeks. I prepared for that interview like my life depended on it. I studied the company's financials, their client complaints, their technical debt. I built a 90-day turnaround plan. The board was 8 people, mostly older men in expensive suits who looked skeptical when I walked in. I presented for 45 minutes. No notes, just confidence and clarity. When I finished, the chairman leaned forward. "You're 29 years old," he said. "Most people your age are still figuring out what they want to do. You're telling us you can run a company with 200 employees?" "I already ran systems for a company with 300 employees," I replied. "I just wasn't getting credit for it. Now I will." A woman at the end of the table, the only other woman in the room, smiled. "You're what this industry needs. No ego. Just clarity." They offered me the position that afternoon. CEO, salary plus equity, full operational control. I accepted. My first month as CEO was chaos. I inherited a company with outdated systems, frustrated clients, and a demoralized team. I spent the first week just listening. I met with every department head, reviewed every client complaint, examined every process. Then I started making changes. New project management systems, clearer communication protocols, performance-based bonuses, transparent decision-making. Some people resisted, a few senior employees quit. But the team responded with relief. They'd been waiting for someone to actually lead. By month 3, client retention was up 18%. By month 6, we'd landed 4 new major contracts. And then something unexpected happened. My new company inherited a list of vendor bids for a major supply chain integration project. I was reviewing the proposals when I saw a familiar name, H.J. Manufacturing, Incorporated, my father's company. The vendor interviews were conducted via video call. Anonymous panels, blind evaluation to ensure fairness. My father's interview was scheduled for a Tuesday afternoon. I sat in with my camera off, just another name on the participant list. He appeared on screen in his office, the same office where he dismissed my resignation. He looked older, more tired than I remembered. He launched into his pitch with the same confidence I'd always known, talking about decades of experience and old-school reliability. But his proposal was outdated. His pricing was high. His implementation timeline was unrealistic. And he made a critical error. His compliance documentation was incomplete. 3 required certifications were missing. The board asked questions. He deflected. He bragged. He talked down to the panel like they should be grateful for his interest. I took notes. Silent. Watching. After the interview ended, the board voted. My father's proposal was disqualified due to compliance violations. I was assigned to draft the rejection letter. I sat at my desk for a long time, staring at the blank template. Then I wrote, "Dear Mr. Whitfield, thank you for your proposal submission. After careful review, we have determined that your company does not meet our minimum operational thresholds. Your proposal has been disqualified due to incomplete compliance documentation. We wish you success in future endeavors. Sincerely, Whitfield Solutions Group." I signed it with my title, CEO Lauren M. Whitfield. 3 days later, my father called the company to appeal the decision. Cheryl, his assistant, made the call. I answered personally. "This is Lauren Whitfield. How can I help you?" Silence. Then, "Lauren, is this your company?" "Yes. Is there something I can help with?" More silence. Then she said she'd call back. 10 minutes later, my father requested an in-person meeting. I accepted. He arrived at my office on a gray Tuesday morning. Security called up to announce him. "Send him to conference room B," I said. I waited there, sitting at the head of the table, my laptop open, wearing the same professional calm I'd learned from watching him for years. He walked in and stopped when he saw me. "Lauren, Dad, thank you for coming. This won't take long." He sat down slowly, looking around the room, the modern furniture, the company logo on the wall, the window overlooking the city. "So this is what you've been building," he said quietly. "Yes." "And you're the one who rejected my proposal." "The board rejected your proposal? I just drafted the letter because of compliance issues." "Yes. Your certifications were 3 months expired. That's a disqualifying error." He looked at me for a long moment. "You could have called, given me a chance to fix it. Would you have extended that courtesy to any other vendor?" He didn't answer. I opened my laptop and turned it toward him. On screen were dashboards showing our company's growth, client retention rates, revenue curves, employee satisfaction scores. "This is what I built," I said calmly. "The systems you said were just spreadsheets. The leadership presence you said I didn't have. The big picture thinking you said Matt was better at." I showed him client testimonials, efficiency metrics, case studies. "You told me I'd sink without you," I continued. "You said I'd be back in a week. That was 3 years ago." He stared at the screen, his jaw tight. "You were wrong about me," I said. Not angry, just factual. "You were wrong about what I could do, about what I was worth, about what I'd build." I closed the laptop. "I didn't become CEO to prove you wrong. I became CEO because I was always capable of this. You just never looked long enough to see it." My father stood up slowly. He looked older than I remembered, the confidence drained from his face. "Maybe I was wrong about you," he said quietly. "Or maybe you just got lucky. Either way, you got there." He walked to the door, then paused. "Your mother would be proud, for what it's worth," she told me. I said, "Thanksgiving, 3 years ago." He nodded once, then he left. I didn't watch him go. I just sat there, feeling the weight of 3 years lift off my shoulders. A junior executive knocked on the door a few minutes later. Was that your dad?" "Yes. That must have been hard. It was necessary." That night, I got a voicemail. My father's number. I almost deleted it without listening, but something made me press play. His voice was rough, uncertain. "Lauren, I don't know if you'll hear this, but I wanted to say, I'm sorry for how I treated you, for what I said. You proved me wrong in every way. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to say it." A pause. Then, "You built something I never could. Congratulations." The message ended. I sat in my apartment, phone in hand, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. Not triumph, not satisfaction, just closure. I saved the message. Then I moved on. My company continued growing. By the end of year 3, we had offices in 4 cities. Our client list included Fortune 500 companies. Our employee count hit 250. I implemented policies my father never would have. Transparent salary bands, unlimited PTO, profit sharing for all employees. People asked me in interviews how I'd succeeded so young. I always gave the same answer. I learned what not to do from someone who thought he knew everything. Then I built something better. One evening, I was working late in the office when one of our interns, a college senior named Zoe, knocked on my door. "Hey Lauren, can I ask you something?" "Of course. How did you know this would work? Starting your own company, I mean. How did you know you'd succeed?" I thought about it. I didn't. Really? Really? I had no guarantees. I just knew I'd rather fail, trying to build something myself, than succeed under someone who would never see my value. She nodded thoughtfully. "That makes sense. You thinking about starting something?" "Maybe. Someday." "Then remember this. The people who tell you that you can't, they're usually protecting their own limitations, not predicting yours." I attended an industry conference 6 months later. My company was speaking on a panel about innovation in operations management. Backstage, I ran into someone I recognized, Matt Kowalski, the guy who'd gotten the promotion that should have been mine. "Lauren, I heard about your company." "That's amazing. Thanks." I wanted to apologize. I always felt weird about that promotion. I knew you deserved it more. It worked out. Better than worked out. You're doing incredible things. He paused. Your dad talks about you sometimes. At industry events. He acts like he always knew you'd be successful. I smiled. Of course he does. Because that's what people like my father do. They rewrite history to make themselves look better. But I didn't need his revised narrative. I had the real story. And I'd built something he never could. Year 4 brought new challenges. Bigger competitors noticed us. Some tried to acquire us. Others tried to undercut our pricing. But we'd built something sustainable. Something based on real value. Not just my father's old-school bravado. We expanded into international markets. We developed proprietary AI tools. We became the company people wanted to work for. And through it all, I stayed grounded. I remembered what it felt like to be dismissed, overlooked, undervalued. So I built a company where that didn't happen. Where talent was recognized regardless of age or connections. Where work mattered more than politics. My mother called on my 30th birthday. Your father wanted me to tell you congratulations. On everything. He could tell me himself. He's embarrassed. He doesn't know how to apologize properly. He left me a voicemail a year ago. That was apology enough. Are you happy, Lauren? Really happy? I looked around my office, the team working collaboratively in the open space, the wall of achievement plaques, the window showing a city I'd conquered on my own terms. Yeah, Mom. I really am. Good. You deserved better than what he gave you. I'm sorry I didn't say that sooner. You said it when it mattered. I thought about that Thanksgiving note sometimes. The one my mother had slipped into my purse 3 years ago. I always knew you were the smart one. She'd seen it. Even when she couldn't say it out loud at the dinner table, even when she stayed silent while my father diminished me, she'd seen my potential. And that had been enough to keep me going on the darkest days. People asked me if I ever regretted walking away from my father's company. If I ever wished I'd stayed and fought for that promotion. The answer was always no, because leaving wasn't giving up, it was choosing myself. It was refusing to shrink to fit someone else's small vision of who I could be. I'd built something from nothing. I'd proven every doubt wrong. I'd become CEO before 30, not because of my father's connections, but despite his obstacles. The CEO plaque on my office door was simple. Lauren M. Whitfield, Chief Executive Officer. No asterisks. No qualifications. No explanations. Just my name and my title. The title I'd earned by betting on myself when no one else would. By working 16-hour days in a basement office. By saying no to quick money because I wanted to build something lasting. My father had said I'd never amount to anything without him. He was wrong. I amounted to everything I'd always been capable of. I just had to stop waiting for his permission to become it. Late one evening, I stood in my office after everyone had gone home. The city lights glowed outside my window. The office was quiet except for the hum of servers in the next room. I pulled out my phone and opened my voice memos. Found the one I'd recorded 3 years ago, the night I quit. My voice shaky and uncertain. I don't know if this is the right decision, but I know I can't stay somewhere that makes me invisible. I deleted it. I didn't need that reminder anymore. I wasn't invisible. I'd never been invisible. I'd just been working for someone who refused to see me. Now I ran a company where everyone was seen, where value was recognized, where 29-year-olds could become CEOs if they earned it. My father had been my biggest obstacle, but he'd also been my greatest teacher. He taught me exactly who I didn't want to be, and in running from that, I'd become exactly who I needed to be: CEO, leader, builder. Lauren Whitfield, age 30, and I was just getting started.